What would you do if one decision cost someone their life and made the world see you as a murderer? It all starts from a desperate man falls to his knees begging for a song, just one track that could save his entire life. He sunk $2 billion won into an album, sold his house, his car, borrowed from loan sharks. And now, the only person who can help him, the genius composer Sam, coldly refuses. Despite the man's tears, Sam walks away. Days later, the man, Munsuk, CEO of CNS Entertainment, is found dead. In his final message, he blames Sam. The internet erupts. Sam's past is dragged into the spotlight, accusations, scandals, even school violence. He becomes public enemy number one. His career crumbles. His family suffers. His father is dying, but even then, Sam can't let go of his pride. He tells his sister he'll keep making music under a new name. But she pleads with him, just stop. Stay. Be with us. But Sam can't quit. He's worked too hard, sacrificed too much. He insisted she could take care of their father, then walked away. Left alone, Honey closed her eyes in frustration at her brother's stubbornness. More misfortune soon followed. Due to ongoing rumors, Sam's entertainment company terminated his contract. Shocked, Sam confronted the executive, reminding him of his accomplishments. He identified himself as the genius composer even Munsuk wanted to work with, the creator of the chart-topping hit that lasted 8 weeks. The director explained that in the world of public figures, handling a scandal mattered just as much as the scandal itself. Despite his talent, the director said he couldn't protect him anymore. From that day, Sam began to suffer physically. There were times he felt breathless, unable to stay on his feet. Later in the hospital corridor, he asked Honey about surgery. She cried, saying their father's liver function was too poor and the cancer had spread. The doctor advised them to prepare for the worst. Honey broke down, wondering how they would go on if their father died. Hearing her despair, Sam lashed out, asking what she meant. That's when Honey finally let out her bottled emotions. She reminded him that he hadn't visited home in months, only appearing when things were at their worst. She said he had no idea what was going on at home and that sending money wasn't enough. Looking straight at him, she said he was now paying the price for everything he had done. Sam stood in silence, thinking deeply about her words. He wondered how everything had fallen apart so completely. On a gloomy day, he sat on the grass, staring into the distance. Beside him was a box full of music he had composed. He had brought it for his father, questioning why his dad kept listening to the songs of such an ungrateful son. His pursuit of success had made him neglect his family. Now, even the career he had worked so hard to build had collapsed. Suddenly, he stood and cried out, admitting that Honey had been right and blaming himself. He believed that if he had cared more, maybe his family wouldn't have suffered so much. In the next moment, darkness surrounded him. He collapsed to the ground, defeated. He thought of the director and regretted not giving the song, or at least lying low. Gripping his chest in pain, he struggled to breathe. Sweat soaked his face as he reached out, as if trying to hold on. Images of Honey's smiling face flashed in his mind. He wondered if this was all the result of his karma. He no longer had the answer. But deep down, he wished he could live differently if given the chance. Unable to bear the pain, Sam collapsed completely on the grass. Only at the edge of death did he truly desire to write a song for his father. A moment later, Sam opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Standing up, he looked around the familiar, modest home. It all felt like a dream, but everything around him was real. After being discharged from the military at 21, he had neither a degree nor a job. He lived in this small, shabby house with his family, surviving off his father's low factory wages. They were just scraping by, hoping one day Sam would make money from a successful song. Bills were always piling up: electricity, water, and more. His savings were limited to 1.5 million won, mostly from his discharge allowance and some part-time jobs. Everything felt too vivid to be just a dream. Maybe somehow he really had returned to the past. Still confused, he heard his sister's voice calling him. Soon his father and sister came home. Sigim saw this as a chance, a fresh start to uplift his family. His first goal was clear: get his father and sister out of their miserable life. The solution started with purchasing used music equipment. The gear was outdated compared to what he once used, but it was good enough. He taught himself again, using all the experience from his previous life. Then he created a song. Contrary to critics who once called him a one-hit wonder, nearly all of his past tracks have been major successes. His secret was simple: he knew how to make profitable music. Now limited to only free sound sources and unable to use his previous work, he still had one thing: his talent. He began composing with confidence, fueled by skills from a lifetime of experience. After finishing the track, he submitted it just as dawn broke. Now all he could do was wait for someone to contact him. At LNS Entertainment, the staff had started their day. While working, an employee suddenly reacted with surprise. Curious, Ingu walked over, assuming the employee was slacking off. The staff member explained that a strange email had arrived. It was from someone named Sam. Ingu, irritated by the name, assumed it was just another arrogant rookie. He dismissed the email, calling the sender unprofessional. But then the employee played the track and the mood shifted. The music's quality was undeniable. The sender had quoted the standard rookie rate, showing industry awareness. Despite being made with free software, the song had a professional touch. This mysterious composer was either a hidden talent or an experienced pro using a false identity. Intrigued, Ingu instructed the staff to get the composer's contact and prepare to buy all 3 songs, regardless of price. Back at home, Sam received a call from LNS Entertainment. The A&R team leader introduced himself and praised the song, asking for a meeting. But Sam declined, requesting they first send a contract for exclusive music rights. The request caught the executive off guard. Sam insisted the payment be made first if they wanted to buy the songs. Though annoyed, Ingu agreed and asked him to refer to the email for details. Before he could finish, the call abruptly ended. A notification soon popped up. Sam had already sent his banking details. Ingu was stunned. This composer clearly wasn't going to be easy. Moments later, Sam's phone buzzed again. Payment received. With royalty money in hand, he cleared all overdue bills. Then he shared everything with his father and sister. To celebrate, he treated the family to a feast. Fried chicken, spicy rice cakes, and burgers filled the table, everything Honey had craved. She asked what the occasion was, and Sam shared the good news. He had found a job. However, their joy turned to concern. They feared he was taking on risky manual labor again, but Sam assured them it wasn't dangerous. He had simply discovered a hidden talent. He played the demo track for them. Honey was stunned to hear that her brother had composed the song and sold it to a major entertainment company. She praised him, half-jokingly calling him a sudden musical genius. Sam wasn't sure if she was impressed or annoyed. Regardless, he felt satisfied. He had tapped into his talent and was ready to earn even more. With the worst seemingly behind them, Sam urged his father to quit working so hard and encourage Honey to focus on school. His words deeply moved her. Family, he realized, was irreplaceable. That belief became the core of his new life. Sam planned to upgrade his equipment using the money he earned. He didn't want to waste any of it, especially with the possibility of securing an exclusive contract from the company soon. Then his phone rang again. Thinking it was from the entertainment company, he answered happily. But what he saw on his screen left him surprised. Meanwhile, at LNS Entertainment, staff were discussing this anonymous composer. An unknown creator using only free sound sources had been submitting high-quality demos and requesting 3 million won per 30-second track. The department head, Huyun, commented that this person wasn't ordinary. He had a good feeling about this deal. Whether the composer was a hidden professional or just highly competent, Huyun was intrigued. He called Sam, starting with a polite greeting. But the call went unanswered. Feeling disrespected, Huyun grew frustrated. He sent a text offering a mutually beneficial deal. Sam, though not troubled by the work itself, looked downcast. Soon after, Huyun received a response, but it was baffling. He showed the message to a colleague, asking if this guy was a farmer. The message explained that someone had stolen all the radishes he had worked hard to grow all night and that he was feeling down. It asked them to call later. At that moment, Siam took off his headset. On his screen, a game was running. Someone had taken all the virtual radishes he had patiently grown overnight. Huhan was reviewing information they received from Sam, also known by his stage name HS. He wondered if Sam didn't recognize his name or intentionally ignored his call. Despite the confusion, he decided to try calling again. This time, Sam picked up. Huhan, maintaining a polite tone, offered condolences about the stolen radishes, though Sam seemed unbothered and claimed to be fine. He mentioned going fishing on an island to clear his mind. When asked about his availability, Sam casually mentioned he was already in Seoul, which confused Huhan since fishing spots like that didn't exist in the city. To avoid wasting time, Sam proposed rearranging the contract terms and suggested meeting at a cafe the next day at 5 p.m. Overhearing the call, a female employee found the exchange amusing. Huhan, on the other hand, imagined Sam to be a bearded, long-haired recluse who farmed vegetables and fished in the Han River. The next day, as Huhan waited at the cafe, a young man approached and asked if he was from LNS. Huhan was caught off guard. Sam looked completely different from what he had imagined. Young, deep, and composed. They sat down to begin negotiations. Huhan presented the exclusive contract and encouraged Sam to review it, assuring him that any unsatisfactory points could be revised. As Sam studied the document, Huhan noted how much younger he looked than expected and assumed a little flattery would be enough to win him over. However, Sam found the contract lacking. Despite being better than the industry average, several terms were unfavorable. The inability to terminate the contract, except in the case of a natural disaster, stood out. Sam noted that the ownership period would be adjusted only upon mutual agreement, but feared legal pressure if he didn't comply. He also pointed out the long contract duration and unbalanced profit-sharing terms. Overall, the deal lacked sincerity. Although this was considered a good opportunity for a rookie, Sam was unwilling to settle. He expressed a desire to be treated based on ability, not experience. As he stood to leave, he gave the company one final chance, asking for a revised contract by the next day. Huhan, although frustrated, agreed. The following day, Sam returned to review the updated contract. This time, Hoo-hun approached the meeting with a changed attitude. Sam acknowledged the revisions but still felt the offer lacked authenticity. He pointed out that a large management company like LNS didn't need to cling to a rookie like him, and he, in return, didn't need to choose LNS. He proposed ending the negotiation if they couldn't reach a sincere agreement. As Sam turned to leave again, Hoo-hun stopped him and asked for his conditions. Sam responded with a bright expression, presenting 5 personal terms. Hoo-hun's expression turned serious as he reviewed them. They were slightly demanding but still reasonable. He double-checked the 4th condition and asked if the amount was enough, to which Sam confidently responded that his value would soon increase and the deal could be renegotiated in a year. With both parties in agreement, they signed a 1-year exclusive contract. The next day, Sam began his official journey at LNS Entertainment headquarters. In line with the special conditions, he received a private recording studio. He visited the company to collect his employee ID and business card. While touring the clean and beautiful office space, which included a spacious rooftop, Hoo-hun pointed out the company's cafeteria, calling it the most important facility. Sam, however, showed more interest in the studio than the food, which annoyed Hoo-hun internally. As they entered the studio, they heard shouting from inside. Unaware that a session was in progress, Hoo-hun introduced the company's new composer, Sam. The man inside the studio turned out to be Cheetah, a talented and reputable producer from Sam's past life. Although they hadn't been close before, they greeted each other warmly. Sam then noticed someone in the recording booth. Earlier, during his tour, a red-haired girl had approached him, loudly questioning whether he was a staff member or a trainee. When Sam confirmed he was staff, she scoffed at his young appearance and warned him to watch his tone, boasting about her own identity. Sam had recognized her immediately. Seo Chiane, a 23-year-old former Idol group member who became a successful solo artist after her group disbanded within a year. Her success, however, didn't last long in his previous life. During their earlier encounter, Chiane had been loud and rude. Sam, uninterested in arguing, simply said he was busy and walked away. She had shouted even louder in frustration. Now, Sam requested permission to observe her recording session and Cheetah agreed. Knowing Sam was watching made Chiane nervous. She began recording while Cheetah gave repeated feedback. Meanwhile, Seo and Hoo-hyun observed from behind. Seo noted that Cheetah seemed unusually strict during the session. Hoo-hyun explained that Cheetah had also produced Chiane's last album, which hadn't performed well. This time, the pressure was high, and her future career depended on the results. Cheetah was stressed, and it showed. Seo commented that the problem might lie in the song not matching the singer. A change was needed. Music should fit the artist, not the other way around. She suddenly volunteered to take over production for Chiane. Cheetah was startled by the suggestion. Hoo-hyun, considering the situation, supported the idea. He questioned whether Cheetah was tired of handling the project and suggested giving Seo a chance. The decision was made. Seo would produce Chiane's new single. There was no pressure, just a change in direction. Cheetah hesitated for a moment, questioning whether the new plan was even possible. Hoo-hyun gave a hesitant smile, acknowledging that the release date might be delayed slightly, but assured it wasn't an impossible task. Cheetah considered the situation. Since the composer was a rookie, this challenge could be a valuable opportunity for him. At the same time, it might also be a breakthrough for Chiane. If the result turned out well, it could draw the attention of the higher-ups. While Cheetah seemed lost in thought, Hoo-hyun reminded him that there was no other way and urged him to report it. Startled by Hoo-hyun's smooth manner, Cheetah agreed. Suddenly, the door opened and Chiane entered. Cheetah addressed her immediately, informing her about the producer change for her album. He mentioned the young man she had met in the recording booth the day before, LNS's new composer, who, despite being new, was highly talented. He assured her there was nothing to worry about. Chiane stood in shock. The idea of working with him left her stunned. Sensing her reaction, Cheetah asked if something had happened between them, but she brushed it off, saying it was nothing before quietly excusing herself and walking out. Her reaction left both Cheetah and Hoo-hyun puzzled. Recently, phrases like "has been Chiane" and "where did the old Chiane go" had become common in media headlines. Although she had been in the entertainment industry for 9 years and was once a widely recognized singer, her popularity had significantly dropped in the past 3 years. She had scolded her manager earlier, questioning why she was being made to work with someone like him for her comeback. It felt as though the company had already given up on her. To her, working with a rookie composer for such an important project implied that there were no expectations left. If this album failed, her singing career, her reputation, and all her past awards would fade into obscurity. She knew she might never get the chance to perform on stage again. Moreover, failure could lead to her contract being terminated. During this time, Hoo-hyun and Seo exchanged messages. Hoo-hyun expressed concern, stating that while Cheetah had agreed, he wondered if it really had to be Chiane, especially since she was a senior and a respected figure. He advised Seo to think it over carefully. Meanwhile, Sejong spent hours at home analyzing and exploring a fresh direction for Chiane's album. He thought her debut songs weren't bad, but her more recent tracks suffered due to poor arrangements. The producers often forced her into hitting uncomfortable high notes that didn't suit her voice and ended up sounding unpleasant. Sejong concluded that Chiane's voice was at its best in the lower mid-range. To highlight her unique vocal tone, he sat at the piano and began experimenting with melodies that would bring out the richness of her natural voice. At LNS Entertainment, Huyeon arrived early and began checking his inbox and phone messages. One particular message left him in shock. He questioned who this composer really was. Within just 24 hours, Sejong had completed the demo for Chiane's new song and even requested that a recording session be scheduled. Assistant Ha and the other managers were surprised after listening to the demo. Many praised the composition, calling it outstanding. While a few thought it would have suited a different singer better, others felt that the song perfectly matched Chiane's style. Later, Chiane arrived at the company and entered the room. Huyeon immediately approached her, expressing how good the new song was and encouraging her to give it a chance. She gave a short nod in response, still skeptical. Internally, she questioned how someone could create such a song in just one day. Doubts crept in, making her wonder if it had been recycled. To find out, she decided to listen to the melody herself. She played the song repeatedly, becoming deeply immersed in it, unaware that Sejong had entered the room. Dun and a female assistant noticed her behavior and were surprised. The same person who never showed interest in music, even from famous composers, was now completely absorbed in this new track. She was swaying gently to the rhythm, clearly drawn in. Sejong quietly watched her, satisfied with her response. Huyeon stepped forward and asked what she thought of the song. She gave a vague response that left him confused. He asked again, but her answer caught him off guard. She questioned why it sounded so good. Seizing the moment, Sejong approached her and suggested a test. He wanted her to sing the last part using scat singing, a vocal improvisation technique involving meaningless syllables. Chiane was caught off guard and asked for clarification. Sejong clarified that he needed to verify whether she was truly capable of singing the piece. Although the song was created specifically for her, he was ready to discard it if she couldn't meet the standard. Everything had been calculated and he needed confirmation before moving forward. Dun and the assistant stood nervously, unsure of how Chiane would react. After a moment of silence, Chiane asked to hear the song once more. This shocked Huyeon, who hadn't expected her to agree. It was clear that she truly liked the piece. Over the next 4 minutes and 24 seconds, the song played 7 times. Chiane quietly listened and practiced on her own. No one interrupted or pressured her. Everyone simply observed. She paid close attention to each melody and note, gradually realizing that the track centered on her lower mid-range vocals. There were no unnecessary high notes or dramatic outbursts. The simplicity of the composition was its strongest point, making it naturally appealing to the ear. After repeating the song several times, she removed her headphones and declared that she was ready to sing. However, Sejong stopped her, saying there was no need. He had already seen what he needed. He told her they would meet again on the day of the recording and walk out of the room, maintaining his cold demeanor. Meanwhile, Huyeon was called in to meet with director Nam. The director mentioned hearing about Chiane's new single being assigned to the rookie composer and asked if it had been Chaide's decision. Huyeon nervously replied that it hadn't been requested by Chaide. Sejong had volunteered himself. Despite answering, he remained confused, still unsure why the director had called for him that day. The director, slightly irritated, expressed concern about the timing of Chiane's single release. It wasn't favorable. Huyeon acknowledged the situation. The director warned that if the album didn't break even, Chiane's contract would be terminated. He disliked risky ventures and wanted both Chaide and Sejong to co-produce the project. He believed it would be more stable that way. Huyeon, disappointed, agreed to talk to them. The next day, Huyeon met Sejong, but Sejong rejected the proposal immediately and firmly. He insisted on choosing the instruments, writing the score, and playing the music himself without interference. Huyeon reminded him that Chiane's future depended on this album and that he was still a rookie. The co-production was an order from above. Sejong looked him in the eye and questioned his trust. Huyeon was left speechless, caught off guard by the question. Sejong, now angry, stood to leave, but Huyeon held his arm. Sejong asked to wait until the recording, mixing, and final track were completed. Since the change in producers had already delayed the release, he argued a little more time wouldn't matter. If director Nam still had issues after hearing the final version, then they could talk about collaboration. On recording day, Chiane appeared to have a sore throat. Sejong checked her condition and she assured him she could proceed. He advised her to relax her throat more, which she followed. She began to see him in a new light. His professional and calm demeanor in the studio contradicted her initial impression. Hours passed and her throat dried. She suddenly realized they had been recording for 5 hours straight. Finally, Sejong gave her a break and reminded her to take care of her voice. Panting from exhaustion, Chiane collapsed on the sofa and exclaimed her fatigue, but quickly corrected herself. From the moment she first heard the song, she had known it was hers. It was a song only she could sing. She started to believe the single might be a big success. Huyen suddenly arrived at the studio and was surprised to see a table full of food containers. He questioned if Seyoung had stayed up all night. Seyoung, still immersed in work, confirmed it. Then a faint voice told Huyen to be quiet. It was China reminding him of basic studio etiquette. Huyen was further surprised to find she had slept there too. Seyoung woke China, saying there was still more to record. She groaned, mentioning only 20 minutes had passed. Huyen, witnessing their dedication, advised Seyoung to rest. The schedule wasn't that tight. He was secretly happy seeing them work well together. China, usually grumpy during all-nighters, now listened without complaint. He felt it was best not to interfere. Their teamwork seemed promising. Finally, the single's release day arrived. However, the headlines focused on others. The Yolo4's comeback, their pre-orders exceeding 2 million, and their aim for new heights dominated the news. Gong Haidu's release also made headlines along with rookie group 9 Star's viral debut. LK Entertainment's top singer also returned, making the competition intense and dramatic. Not a single headline mentioned China. She sat visibly disappointed until someone announced her song would be released in 1 minute. Unexpectedly, her fans, known as Antis, liked the song, helping it climb the charts. After performing the title track Go on Music Core and other programs, the song entered the top 50 on domestic online charts. It was a welcome result for the company. Huyen invited Seyoung to lunch in the cafeteria. He told him not to be greedy and that the company was satisfied. Seyoung calmly replied he understood. He didn't feel pressured. Huyen, confused, heard him add that the rest was up to the company. If the song didn't go further, that was their limit. Huyen, slightly saddened, admitted he just wanted to offer comfort. Seyoung quickly clarified it wasn't about work. His Radish business had failed, resulting in big losses. Suddenly, the blonde assistant ran over, out of breath. She mentioned that advertising company D&I had called about using Chiane's song Walking Together in commercial. Huyen was stunned. The song had never charted due to lack of promotion. The assistant emphasized the urgency and need for a quick response. Huyen stood up, put on his jacket, and said they needed to review the contract immediately. Before leaving, he told Seyoung to finish his lunch. Seyoung, left behind, was confused. If D&I was using the song, it would gain massive exposure. He believed in good music. Walking Together was a good song and someday it would shine. He felt he should congratulate China. It didn't really affect him directly. One day, China handed him a car key. She said she simply wanted to sing the song comfortably. Since they'd see each other outside of work anyway, it made sense. Seyoung's expression was blank. Meanwhile, Huyen was stressed, practically tearing his hair out. D&I's advertising campaign made waves. Hundreds of comments flooded the commercial's video. Viewers talked about wanting to travel with their moms and asked about the song. The Go MV reached 1.9 million views within 2 weeks. Headlines soon called it the diva's return. Walking Together started climbing the charts and all songs from the album charted. Huyen, overjoyed, shouted in celebration. He shook Seyoung with excitement. What he thought might only break even turned out to be a major success. Seyoung smugly agreed was his song after all. Huyen fumbled for his phone, saying he had planned to treat everyone that night, but it would have to wait. As the ringtone played, Seyoung asked who was calling. Huyen showed his phone. The director was calling. He asked them both to come to his office. Later in the office, Seyoung asked the reason for the meeting. He glanced at the director, who simply sipped his tea, expression unreadable. Huyen silently hoped Sung would stay quiet, fearing any unnecessary words. Director Nam I, however, smiled with satisfaction, declaring the album a great success. He credited the composer for this achievement, stating that Seochi and I was now able to renew her contract. Sung responded modestly, claiming it was just luck. The director admitted he initially suspected Sung had feelings for Seochi and I when he offered to produce her album. But Sung had remained unexpectedly composed. He explained that he simply wanted to work with such a beautiful instrument, which the director acknowledged as a form of special feeling. Then the topic shifted to Kim Hoo-han having arranged a studio for Sung. The director offered to provide a private studio within the company and handed over a Mercedes car key to make him more comfortable. He mentioned they would likely meet often outside of work as well. Watching this unfold, Hoo-han grew suspicious. He wondered if the director was trying to keep Sung under control. Refusing such gifts wasn't impossible, but he hoped Sung would tread carefully. Sung, however, smiled, accepted the car key, and thanked the director, saying he couldn't decline such generosity. The director expressed his high expectations for him. Outside, Hana stared wide-eyed at her brother's new car and screamed in disbelief. She asked if he had bought it. Sung opened the door, revealing the spotless interior, and urged their father and sister to get in. Before their father could respond, Hana was already inside inspecting the car. When asked about it, Sung said the company gave it to him for the project's success. Their father, however, remained wary, concerned about accepting such an expensive gift without fully understanding the implications. Sung reassured him and led him into the car. Inside, he played a song composed for Chian I-hun, listened and admitted she had doubted him being a composer at first, but the song was really impressive. Among Seo Chian-i's songs, she liked Walking Together the most. The melody was soothing and perfect for driving. She said she would add it to her playlist. Sung was surprised to learn about her interest in music. He told her not to brag about it, to which she asked why. She wanted to boast about her brother. Sung simply replied that power and fame could corrupt easily, and he didn't want to fall into that trap. Their father remained silent, looking out the window while listening to the music. Hana kept questioning her brother, asking if the company had said something to him. Sung didn't respond right away, lost in thought. He reflected that some people, even while listening to music, felt no emotions. They just stared blankly. For him, power and fame were only tools. His true goal was something deeper, continuing his passion for music, with family as the top priority. Back at LNS Entertainment, Sung wandered around with a box in his hands, searching for the studio the director had arranged. He found the building too large and confusing. Then he overheard a voice inside a room encouraging someone to just hold on until the monthly evaluation was over. Sung guessed it was a trainee. He noticed the sign-up sheet on the door and saw the name Chun Erin. Just then, Erin turned and confronted him, asking how he knew her name. Sung casually claimed to be a staff member and asked for directions. Erin quickly gave them, directing him to take the main elevator to the first floor. But Sung didn't leave immediately. He watched as Erin resumed her vocal practice. Her voice was pure and clear, leaving Sung impressed. After a moment of contemplation, he quietly placed his business card next to her bag before leaving. Later, in the composer's room, Huiyan excitedly handed Sung a list of LNS Entertainment artists and told him to choose. When Sung asked what it was for, Huiyan explained that it was time to begin the next project. After reviving Teo-ji and I's career and earning the director's trust, he was confident that all his requests would be approved. Sung thought briefly, then remembered the girl he had met earlier. He asked when the trainee's monthly evaluation results would be released. Huiyan was surprised but answered that the results were due that night. Curious, he asked why Sung was interested. Sung requested to delay choosing the next project until tomorrow. Meanwhile, Erin packed her belongings, haunted by the words of people around her who questioned if she was wasting her youth. She recalled not knowing what to say anymore, whether to offer hope or remain silent, unsure if such words had any real value. Her departure had been decided. She was told to clear her things by the end of the week. As she continued packing, Erin reflected on her early days at the company. 3 years had passed since then. Despite criticism, she had never given up on music. Standing in front of the mirror, she asked herself what she had been doing during her 6 years as a trainee. Suddenly, she spotted something: Sung's business card. Tears welled up as hope sparked within her. She questioned why she was even considering it, but admitted it stemmed from desperation. Remembering their earlier encounter, she wondered if this was fate. A moment later, she opened the composer's room door. Inside, Sung greeted her with a casual remark, noting her precise timing. He asked if she had come to seek his help. It was clear that Erin had followed her instincts. Sung stood and smiled subtly, prepared to help her debut in a different way. Seo questioned whether an instrument could speak or possess a personality. Erin responded with hesitation, denying both. He then explained that an instrument should only produce sounds based on the musician's intent. Suddenly, realization struck Erin. She asked if that was truly all there was to it. He challenged her again, implying she wanted more pain. But she insisted that one sentence was enough to prove whether she lacked individuality. It was also enough for him to compose a song tailored to her voice. Back, he said, define professionalism. Erin pleaded for another chance. She reminded him that although she approached him out of desperation, she wasn't completely unknown to him. Previously, Erin had overheard her colleagues gossiping about Seo Chan. They said she was nearly dropped after her last album, but a new composer saved her. No one knew the real name, only the pen name HS. Rumors claimed he barely slept, functioning like a dolphin, taking 5-minute naps and then composing like a man possessed. Many believed his exceptional talent was the reason for his favor with both the director and the board. Returning to the present, Seyoung broke the silence and told her he would inform her when he had a draft ready. She could leave for now. Erin hesitated but expressed gratitude for his help. He replied flatly, reminding her that the project hadn't even started and advised her to take care of her health. Erin smiled and agreed. At an LNS Entertainment meeting, Huiyan reported that the Japanese audience's response to Seo Cheon exceeded expectations. Although she had only just entered the Oricon charts, proper promotion and showcases could lead to a solo concert in Japan that winter. Director Choi supported the idea. If she performed well, they might even top the Oricon charts by year-end. Nami approved and told Chief Kim to proceed. Huiyan thanked the director, feeling satisfied. Director Bach added that the director's mood seemed much better after resolving Seo Cheon's situation. He had always believed she would succeed, given her past fame, though he hadn't expected it so soon. He called her lucky. Director Choi quietly criticized Bak and Ta for being full of empty words. Directors Choi and Bak, leaders of management teams 1 and 2 respectively, remained rivals even after becoming board members. Their rivalry extended to dividing control of the management department. Suddenly, Nami commented on Bak's earlier confidence in Seo Chaeyeon. He expressed surprise as he had considered her a complete branding failure, unlikely to regain public attention. He admitted he was wrong and praised Sam's work. Nami then asked Huyeon if he had chosen a singer for Sam's next project. Huyeon hesitated, unsure. Just then, Nami's phone rang. It was Sam. Seeing the caller ID, Nami remarked on the boldness of the composer contacting a director directly. Everyone in the room reacted with surprise. A mere composer calling the director himself was unheard of. Nami answered the call. Sam introduced himself and got straight to the point. He spoke about a trainee named Chung Aaron, who had trained with LNS Entertainment for years but was recently dismissed. He expressed a desire to work with her on his next project. Ward members murmured, recognizing that Sam must know how difficult it would be to get approval for producing a debut song for a dismissed trainee. That likely explained why he contacted the director personally. Nami reminded him that all LNS Entertainment staff were competent and assumed her dismissal was justified. Sam responded with a metaphor. Anyone can produce a sound from a violin by drawing the bow across the strings, but making music and making noise are not the same. Even the best instrument sounds awful in unskilled hands. He reminded Nami of his earlier success with Seo Chaeyeon and expressed confidence in Aaron's potential under his guidance. Director Choi relayed Sam's request to Huyeon, explaining that Sam wanted to produce a single for a dismissed trainee. Huyeon panicked and apologized, offering to speak with Sam, but the director dismissed that idea. He believed Sam wouldn't change his mind. He shared his philosophy on dealing with talented but stubborn individuals. One way was to give them a chance to prove themselves. If they succeeded, it could be won over. The other way was complete elimination if they failed. If they were too troublesome to keep but too valuable to discard, making them disappear might be the best solution. Meanwhile, Aaron, overjoyed, held the contract with eyes sparkling with hope. Huyeon sighed, frustrated with how hard it had been to secure the composer's signature. Seo had criticized the initial contract terms, blaming them for the delay. Huyeon accepted responsibility, admitting the profit-sharing issues were his fault. Aaron became absorbed in the new song written for her and was amazed by its quality. Huyeon congratulated her but warned not to get overly hopeful to avoid disappointment. She didn't hear him, too focused on the music. Seo suggested starting with the chorus. Aaron hesitated, asking for more practice time. He questioned how she could still need more practice after 6 years of training. Their intense recording process began. Aaron sang a single line repeatedly. Each attempt failed to meet Seyoung's standards. Sometimes it lacked emotion. Other times her pronunciation was unclear. Occasionally, she sang off-key from the beginning. Each time she was told to sing again. Eventually, she stormed out of the booth, frustrated, asking to hear the demo. She confessed she couldn't feel anything. Seyoung sighed and played the demo himself. Hearing his voice stunned Aaron. His performance was filled with emotion and control. She wondered why someone so talented had never debuted. Despite working tirelessly through the night, they produced perfect results. Although the track wasn't professionally mastered yet, the demo mix was solid. Unlike Seo Chaeyeon, Aaron was an unknown rookie. This meant the company needed to put in more effort to promote her. But soon, something unexpected occurred. Seyoung learned about Koch's 10th anniversary album from a colleague and was surprised. Because of Koch's comeback, the promotions team wasn't focusing on Aaron's debut. All their energy was being directed toward the company's top group. Huyeon was stunned and deeply concerned. Aaron's debut clashed with Koch's return, and he suspected Baekhyuntae was behind this move, trying to undermine director Choi. Koch, managed by Team 1 under director Bak, had long been active in Japan, frustrating their domestic fans. This lack of domestic activity was now being weaponized to suppress others. The promotions team apologized to Huyeon, claiming there was nothing they could do. But Huyeon was determined to find a way. The schedule clash between Aaron and Koch couldn't be ignored. Seyoung pointed out that Koch's schedule couldn't be delayed. A good song would become popular on its own, and if it didn't, that was just bad luck. Huyeon asked if he was worried, but Seyoung remained calm and even seemed intrigued. He believed Koch's anniversary album would dominate the charts and be remembered as one of the best ever. In a previous life, he had missed witnessing such a moment because he hadn't debuted yet, and now he found the situation exciting. Huyeon, frustrated by Seyoung's attitude, reminded him of the seriousness of Aaron's situation. Seyoung clarified that he wasn't laughing at her misfortune, but saw the situation differently. He urged Huyeon to focus on his job, as the outcome was ultimately the company's responsibility. Just then, director Bak approached and called out to Chief Kim. Huyeon greeted him and introduced Seyoung. Director Bak evaluated Seyoung silently, thinking he might be a trainee. When Huyeon received a call, he excused himself, reminding Seyoung to stay in the recording studio. Bak noticed their closeness and reconsidered his assumption. Recalling something Namee had said, he quickly connected the dots and realized Seyoung was HS, the renowned composer. Bak praised him for his work on Chaeyeon's album and expressed high expectations. He even suggested they meet for a drink. But while he spoke, Seyoung quietly slipped away. Bak, caught off guard, clenched his teeth in frustration and vowed to teach him a lesson. Elsewhere, director Kim CP met another director who claimed to have important information. The director revealed that Kyoko would be returning to Korea soon. Kim CP was surprised as the group was still busy with the solo concert tour in Japan. He quickly sensed the director had ulterior motives. The director hinted at arranging Koki's comeback performance on Music Bank, suggesting that Kim CP make it happen. Excited by the opportunity, Kim CP saw this as his chance to gain recognition. The director praised his understanding, but then revealed a more manipulative plan. He asked Kim CP to move Coco's comeback to next week and adjust the schedule. However, Kim CP hesitated. J Super, a group from On Entertainment, was already scheduled for the final slot, and changing it would be difficult. He didn't want to create conflict with another major company. The director insisted that Coco was more valuable than J Super and had already prepared an excuse. He pointed out that a rookie from their company, Erin, was debuting next week. He proposed moving her performance to the opening slot while giving Coco the final slot. He also instructed to downplay Erin's debut and make it look insignificant to On Entertainment. The director promised Kim CP recognition for successfully handling Coke's return and fastened an expensive watch onto his wrist. Seeing the personal gain, Kim CP agreed. Later, Huyeon received a call asking when he would return to the company. He was told Erin's debut had been moved to the opening slot, leaving him stunned. At the same time, the teaser video for Coke's anniversary album had just been released, announcing the album's drop next week. Previously, J Super held the final performance slot and they were still a top group. Huyeon found it strange that J Super had given up their slot. He suspected director Bak's involvement and started investigating online. Not only was Coke's comeback time with Erin's debut, but they also secured the most important performance slot. These tactics didn't seem to benefit director Bak directly, which made the move even more suspicious. Seyoung also questioned the timing and strategy. Huyeon asked him to recall their recent elevator encounter with director Bak. Seyoung mentioned that Bak had invited him for a drink, but he ignored the invitation, sensing that something was off. Now he was convinced something was indeed going on. Huyeon then told Seyoung to keep his schedule clear for tomorrow. Director Bak had interfered with Erin's debut, and Seyoung wasn't going to stand by quietly. As he arrived, director Choi greeted him with a warm smile, recognizing him as Minhyun's Seyoung. Seyoung returned the gesture with a polite bow and handshake. Huyeon stepped forward, apologizing for interrupting director Choi's busy schedule. He had a favor to ask. Confused, director Choi questioned the request. Huyeon hesitated, then expressed his frustration. A rookie composer's attitude had triggered underhanded tactics from someone in the company. He admitted they should have handled it internally and apologized for bringing the issue to him. Director Choi acknowledged the situation, stating it now required help from someone with greater authority. But Huyeon doubted even a director could resolve it. Director Choi laughed lightly and clarified. This would require someone above the director. Their car soon pulled up to the home of the influential figure Director Choi referred to. This man was considered a legend in the entertainment industry, active since Korea's transition to color TV. Even Chioneme respected him. As they entered, Director Choi revealed that this man had significantly helped LNS Entertainment in its early stages. Huyeon was stunned and guessed his identity. Director Choi confirmed his assumption. It was indeed him. An elderly man greeted them with a gentle smile. Director Choi introduced him as Mr. Lee Dusuk, a former board member. They all bowed respectfully, and after a short exchange, the old man quickly dismissed the pleasantries. He acknowledged Director Choi's visit, noting he'd even brought his protégés. Understanding they had a reason beyond greetings, he invited them inside. The three sat opposite the old man and explained the situation. After listening, his tone turned firm. He reminded them they were no longer children and scolded them for bringing internal company issues to him. Sipping tea, he firmly refused to intervene. Director Choi hesitated under the old man's stern gaze, attempting to argue, but faltered. The old man turned his attention to Sam, seated quietly beside them. Noticing his calm demeanor, he questioned Sam's lack of worry. Sam replied that he believed in letting things unfold naturally. If a song was good, it would succeed, even if it coincided with Coke's album release. He acknowledged that stopping KOK's comeback was not an option. Intrigued, the old man praised Sam's sharpness. Huyeon was caught off guard by this. Sam admitted it was just his personal opinion. He then requested the old man's help to ensure a fair competition for Erin. He spoke of her dedication, 6 years of intense training. If her single failed, she wouldn't get another chance. The old man listened, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Then he asked if anyone played Go. Sam responded honestly, saying he knew how to play a little. The old man's mood lightened immediately. Delighted, he brought out a Go board. Director Choi, surprised, nervously called out to him. The old man declared they would wager on a game of Go. Se-young found it amusing that a young singer's future was being wagered in a game. The old man explained it was just a way for him to decide whether to help or not. He made it clear. This might be a life or death moment for them, but to him it was just entertainment. He challenged them. Se-young accepted without hesitation. They flipped a coin. Lee Do-suk played white and Se-young played black. The old man asked how many handicap stones he wanted. Se-young boldly chose to play an even game. Surprised, the old man repeated the question, but Se-young stood by his decision, calling it a fair competition. Directors Choi and Hu-yeon watched anxiously. Hu-yeon whispered about the progress of the game, but Director Choi told him not to disturb them. He warned Hu-yeon not to get his hopes up. Lee Do-suk had climbed through hardship, and he took Go very seriously. The game continued with focus. Se-young analyzed the board deeply, while Director Choi pointed out a mistake. He believed the kid didn't know how to play properly. Hu-yeon defended Se-young that noticed something. White had deliberately lured black in. Go, after all, was a game of patience. Se-young made another move. The old man frowned slightly. Eventually, Se-young acknowledged he had learned a valuable lesson. Hu-yeon guessed he had lost, and Director Choi confirmed it was a narrow defeat. Se-young admitted the loss and questioned whether this meant the old man wouldn't help. The old man paused, then unexpectedly conceded. Director Choi was stunned. The old man explained. Se-young had initially played weakly, lowering his guard. Then his strategy shifted to chaos, aiming to disrupt the game. He had predicted the old man's level and moves, countering them effectively. Despite the handicap, he only lost by half a point. To the old man, that meant total defeat. He took a photo of the board and laughed, pleased by the challenging match. A few days later, young Erin's single was released. The initial reception was quiet, but with Lee Do-suk's support, the tide turned. News and social media exploded with praise for Erin. Articles highlighted her as a rising star. Famous singers and composers commended her single Adolescence. A message soon arrived for Se-young from the old man, requesting repayment with another game of Go. The message included a photo with a caption, "Always supporting you." Se-hyun saw the message and sighed, knowing more work was coming. In the background, Hu-yeon drank beer and thanked Mr. Lee Do-suk. He turned to Se-young, marveling at his talent, and joked that he should go pro. Se-young casually replied that Go was his specialty, but it didn't mean he should make it a career. He had taken up Go because he didn't like going outside. Though he said it lightly, he silently added that he eventually quit because he never found a worthy opponent. Meanwhile, the music show was about to begin. Director Park muttered that media play wouldn't save Director Choi this time. The first performance slot was typically given to unknown singers from small companies. The broadcast began without any MC introduction, and the audience cheered throughout. Performers came and went without being named. Suddenly, Director Park sprang up in shock. His toupee flew off as he realized the performer on stage wasn't Jung In. It was a completely different boy band. Kim CP, a red-haired man, got a frantic call from Director Park. He stammered, explaining that he had no choice and didn't expect such intense pressure from the top. When he asked why it mattered, after all, it was just Director Choi, he was quickly corrected. The pressure wasn't from Choi, but from someone even higher, Mr. Lee Do-suk himself. On the show, the MCs announced a special lineup. Hyokwae would celebrate their 10th debut anniversary, and the Soup Super and Villy would perform. But before all that, they introduced a special debut, the hot rookie singer, Jung In. The MCs and crowd buzzed with curiosity. Her name had dominated entertainment news. The press coverage suggested LS Entertainment had gone all out for her debut. Speculations rose about whether her talent matched the hype. While some dismissed it as media play, others pointed to her impressive trainee videos as proof of her singing skills. In the back, the boy laughed quietly, thinking that Mr. Lee Do-suk had gone overboard with the media push. Erin gracefully stepped onto the stage, holding a microphone. As her sweet voice filled the venue with the opening line, the comment section instantly erupted. Viewers questioned what they just heard, surprised by her voice and delivery. Many were amazed by the intro and her ability to hit high notes with ease, comparing her to a dolphin. Her confident interaction with the camera excited the audience. Though a rookie, she didn't seem like one. Her performance felt more like a seasoned idol's comeback than a debut. The audience began chanting her name, Jung In. Watching through the TV screen, Hu-yeon felt a rush of excitement. It had taken 6 long years for Erin to rise from an unknown trainee in LS Entertainment's basement to this moment. Recognized as a multi-talented musician, Erin could play any piece with ease. Soon, the MC's voice echoed through the venue, announcing the final winner segment of the first week of May's live music show. The 2 top contenders were revealed, RKOK and Jung In with her debut song, Adolescence. Hu-yeon, surprised by the results, watched in disbelief. Even the boy beside him thought the final 2 would be KOK and Soup Super. At the MC's invitation, Erin stepped forward, drawing attention from the crowd and contestants alike. Her expression, now showing her rookie side, was a contrast to her confident stage persona. Despite her newcomer status, she had even surpassed Soup Super to become a finalist, stirring skepticism among the viewers. Some suspected foul play, questioning how a debutant could reach such heights. While many admitted her performance was excellent, her nomination for first place still felt too sudden. As the female MC raised her voice to build anticipation, the scores were revealed. Digital charts known for favoring ballads and girl group songs played a key role. Unlike boy groups that relied on fan bases but often dropped quickly, songs like Erin's had broader appeal. Wooyeon expressed concern about two artists from the same company being finalists, fearing accusations of rigging. However, he clarified that KOK was an exception. With broadcast scores and audience preferences combined, the final tally was revealed. Jung Erin was declared the winner for the first week of May. Following that night, discussions about Erin surged online. Many viewers catching the replay later were stunned by her beauty and vocals. Others noticed a common link between Erin and other suddenly popular artists like Seo Eunchi. Each had worked with the same songwriter. People began calling this songwriter a modern-day Midas, turning every collaboration into gold. Beneath those posts, a flood of comments followed. At that moment, Wooyeon turned to the boy, teasingly referring to him as Midas. The boy, unfazed, brushed it off. Wooyeon, however, was genuinely impressed and congratulated him, admitting his worries over the complex project. The director had decided to adjust the boy's contract. At the mention of a contract, the boy paused, then asked about Erin. Wooyeon explained that her previous contract had only been temporary. Now, thanks to her success, she had already signed an exclusive contract. She was likely performing at the Bandlinkman Festival. In the car en route to the festival, Erin reflected on her journey. Even though she didn't win first place, second place felt incredible for a debut. She could hardly believe what she had achieved with just one song. The Bandlinkman Festival, an annual music event organized by Seoul City, was a coveted stage for any artist. Tickets were notoriously hard to get and were often resold at high prices. Performing there meant sharing the spotlight with the biggest names in the industry. Suddenly, rain began to fall, causing a stir among the crowd. Despite the weather, the MC appeared in a raincoat and made an announcement. Due to safety concerns, several performances would be cancelled, including those of Mvili, Thai Bin, Park Hyun-soo, Thort, and Shin Chin. The audience, shocked and upset, voiced their disappointment. Some complained about the ticket prices and lack of prior notice. Others criticized the treatment of fans who promoted the artists. A reporter, annoyed, wondered why the event wasn't postponed instead, as the forecast had only predicted showers. In the midst of the unrest, Erin's voice rose through the rain, echoing the lyrics of her debut song once more. Though her delivery still had a hint of awkwardness, her passion was clear. The lyrics spoke of jealousy and misunderstanding, capturing the crowd's attention once again. Audience members began recognizing her as the singer from the music show, amazed by her voice and curious about the song. Many questioned the risks of her performing in the rain, noting that all other singers had already left. Yet her commitment amazed them. Erin, on that rainy stage, felt deeply thankful. She was grateful to be given the opportunity to perform even as a last-minute replacement. She appreciated the audience who stayed despite the weather and was thankful to the one who made it possible. Above all, she was grateful to the person who taught her that after rain, sunshine always follows. Meanwhile, the boy's family plane touched down in Japan. On a busy street, his sister Hain excitedly announced their arrival, spreading her arms with joy. Embarrassed, their father tried to calm her down while calling out to the boy, urging him to intervene. The boy, replying in Japanese, distanced himself playfully. Despite being on a family vacation, his thoughts remained on work. It seemed director Nami had taken notice of him after a meeting with Mr. Lee Doo-suk and invited him for a private dinner. After passing what seemed like a subtle test, his contract was upgraded, leading to better opportunities. Excited, Hooven offered to help him find a place to stay. The boy, composed, declined, thinking to himself that he had bought plenty of houses in his past life, and so they enjoyed their first family trip to Japan. Hain, dressed in a kimono, and posed gracefully for a photo, smiling warmly and bidding farewell with a cheerful gesture. Turning to Sam, she noticed his discomfort and asked if he disliked taking pictures. The boy hesitated, admitting his unease, explaining that people often say memories only survive in photographs. Eventually, the two took a check-in photo together, and the boy reflected on how much fun they had, completely losing track of time. After their outing, the three of them boarded the train. Hain and Munsuk leaned on each other and quickly fell asleep. Watching them, the boy gazed out the window with a smile, realizing how beautiful it felt to travel with family. He quietly wondered why he hadn't experienced this before and silently rejoiced in the moment. The scene shifted to a record store where Sam stood holding a cup, admiring the rows of vinyl records. Turning around, he spotted a man struggling with a musical instrument and immediately recognized it as a 5-string contrabass. Observing the wall display and the man's tense expression, he guessed the instrument was probably broken. Stepping forward, he offered to help with tuning. The man questioned if he was a professional contrabass player, to which the boy calmly responded that he wasn't, but he knew how to play. As the boy began adjusting the strings, the man watched nervously, surprised by the mention of perfect pitch tuning, something uncommon due to the instrument's low register. The boy explained that while it's usually tuned to B, aiming for perfect pitch made it more interesting. After completing the adjustments, he turned to leave, mentioning that he looked forward to the performance. The man watched his retreating figure, knowing that tuning a contrabass to perfect pitch was no easy feat. Taking a deep breath, he began to play, and the rich melody immediately caught everyone's attention, relaxing the crowd. Back at his seat, the boy listened and noted the man was using the busy cattle technique. Surprised by the sound, he admitted to himself that he had misjudged the instrument's condition. Meanwhile, Teiji arrived out of breath, asking if his help was still needed. He complimented the sound, visibly impressed. In a dream, Sam's father cried out to God, promising to live righteously and dedicate himself to his family, begging for another chance to atone for his sins. Suddenly, the sound of a crash interrupted everything. People screamed in panic. Munsuk stood frozen as others around him shouted for emergency services. On the road lay an unconscious woman bleeding heavily. A gentle voice echoed in his mind, reminding him that eating well was necessary to work hard. The woman on the ground, his wife, appeared in his memory smiling, giving a thumbs up and promising to marry him and cook for him daily. The nightmare ended as Munsuk jolted awake, terrified, screaming. He began coughing violently, while Singh rushed to his side, stammering with worry. A flight attendant quickly approached to check on him. Just then, an announcement declared the plane's arrival in Incheon. Later at the hotel, Han pressed her face to the window, captivated by the view of the Han River. She expressed excitement, surprised that they were staying there overnight. The boy and his father, however, remained silent. The father, visibly uneasy, questioned the decision to stay at a hotel so close to home. Holding his suitcase, the boy explained that the luxurious apartment they were in wasn't just a hotel. Han ran around excitedly, marveling at the spaciousness of the place and remarking that it felt like something out of a movie. When asked if she liked it, she opened a door and happily responded, wondering when they would ever get such a chance again. Suddenly, she froze in shock, gasping and covering her mouth. Inside the room, she recognized her belongings. Her voice trembled as she called out to her brother. The boy remained seated and responded calmly, telling her to stop calling him that. Confused, she pointed to the room and questioned why her clothes and books from home were there. He smiled and explained that this place was their new home. She stood stunned, unable to believe it. She asked again if it was really true. Together with her father, she admired the view outside, both of them filled with joy. The boy turned to watch them, feeling content as his father smiled at his daughter's happiness. In the past, a friend asked the boy if he had picked a new project. While playing a game, he confirmed he had an idea. He wanted to create a solo album. His thoughts drifted to his father, lying down with a discomforted expression while reading the lyrics. The boy quietly admitted to himself that he wanted to tell his own story through music. A letter from Man Records arrived, addressed with a confidential cooperation proposal. Manager O questioned why it had reached Team 1 instead of Team 2. Just then, Director Park stormed in, demanding to know what was going on. Startled, the boy nervously addressed him. The director snatched the letter and scolded the team for not reporting developments promptly. Looking closely at the letter, the director noticed it was from Man Records. The boy explained that it had been mistakenly sent to their team, and that Man Records was interested in collaborating with AHS from Team 2. Director Park examined the document with a serious expression. The boy recalled that he and Suchi had recently begun a concert tour in Japan, which had drawn attention from a major record label. This development irritated Director Park, who had hoped that Jung Naren's reputation would decline. The boy feared that the director's frustration would now affect the staff. Director Park announced that Man Records was targeting HS and instructed the team to inform all songwriters from Team 1. With a smug grin, he told them to prepare impressive demos. When the boy pointed out that HS was specifically requested, the director dismissed the detail, claiming HS was just lucky, and that his team had equally talented songwriters. To him, it didn't matter who produced the song as long as it was good. He emphasized the importance of impressing a big company like Man Records. The boy reflected on his life, realizing that in both his past and present, he had only chased money. But this new album represented a real personal challenge. The scene shifted to a house in Japan, where two individuals played Go. One admitted defeat, but the other insisted the game wasn't over. The old man encouraged looking at the world beyond the board to find new solutions. The boy appeared surprised by his words. The old man suggested that life was too vast to be confined to a narrow game. The boy grew thoughtful. When told time was up, the old man seemed shocked by how quickly it passed. The boy, however, believed the man was being unrealistic. To him, it was just a game, and games were meant to be won or lost. He believed composing music worked the same way. Memories of his father's scream flashed in his mind. He recalled anxiously checking on him and the heartbreaking image of his mother bleeding on the road. He quietly acknowledged that his father was still with him. Then, remembering himself playing the instrument, he admitted to being haunted by guilt. While driving down the street, a voice suddenly called out a name, HS. The driver glanced back and explained that HS was a rising rookie songwriter from Ellis Entertainment. But Dewey didn't care for the explanation. He wasn't asking about the person's identity. With his chin resting on his hand, he stared out the window, unimpressed by the idea of collaborating with an unknown songwriter on a solo album. In his view, a songwriter's solo album wasn't worth much, just another feature at best. His irritation grew and he gritted his teeth, complaining about the songwriter's arrogance after just a few hits. He ordered to reject the offer outright. Elsewhere, Chibo sat inside a recording studio, listening to the same song that had been declined. Wearing headphones and looking serious, he analyzed the music. It became clear to him why Oduwe had rejected it. Yet, as he tapped his fingers to the rhythm, he realized this was the song he had been searching for. At a company meeting, the session came to an end. Hunin stormed off in frustration, veins bulging on his face. His thoughts turned to Director Park, who he believed was ready to sabotage the company just for personal revenge. The director's actions, which ignored their impact on others, had started to make Hunin deeply uncomfortable. During the meeting, Park had gone as far as to flatter the higher-ups excessively. Director Park ended the meeting with fake cheerfulness, thanking everyone for allowing the collaboration with Man Records. But Hunin couldn't hide his rising anger. He walked faster, questioning why Man Records chose to work with Team 1 when Team 2 had Minhui Seum, a producer known for making hits. Inside the recording studio, Hunin acknowledged Seum's reputation as a hit producer. Seum, still composing, looked up as Hunin entered. He removed his headphones while thinking about that very title, hit producer. Hunin, now more composed, admitted that he had expected singers to reject the rookie songwriter's solo project. Dewey had already refused. The only one who had agreed was Moon Beomchai. Seum was shocked. Hunin noticed the reaction and asked why he seemed so surprised. He reminded Seum that this was the very person he had once wanted to collaborate with. Seum, still processing the news, couldn't hide the mix of emotions on his face. In truth, working with Moon Beomchai had been a long-time dream. In his past life, he had even considered Moon to be one of the top 5 musicians. He remembered offering collaborations many times before. During one of those past moments, Che had taken off his headphones and commented on the song's quality. He acknowledged that the song had a unique style and praised it for its potential popularity. However, he also believed the two of them were not a good creative match and apologized for turning it down. Back in the present, Hunin teased Seum about being nervous around Moon Beomchai. Seum calmly clarified that he wasn't afraid, just surprised that someone he never expected to accept had now agreed. Hunin laughed it off and pointed out that he had thought differently. He reminded Seum of his appointment and urged him to go quickly since the person was already waiting. Standing before a door, Seum kept his hands in his pockets, staring quietly. He had expected to meet Moon Beomchai, but it turned out to be director Chien Nami. Anticipating this, he figured Nami would reach out after learning about the solo album plans. Nami welcomed him warmly and quickly brought up the topic. He felt that it was too soon for Seum to release his solo album, even if he had a few hits. In his opinion, Seum still needed to build his brand. Seum listened silently, recognizing the polite tone but sensing the true meaning behind the words. He understood that Nami was basically inviting him to convince him otherwise. Not too long ago, the same director had been praising him constantly, but now, after a minor disagreement, his attitude had shifted drastically. Responding with a cheerful tone, Seum acknowledged that it might indeed be early. Yet he argued that sometimes the least commercial things become the most commercial. Nami accused him of playing with words, but Seum denied it. He brought up the story of the goose that laid golden eggs, emphasizing the importance of not harming the source of success. He believed that instead of ruining the goose, one could simply keep it content. By making the goose believe that its current barn was the best place to be, the golden eggs could be obtained efficiently. A bit of pampering, he suggested, was the smartest strategy. Nami silently acknowledged Seum's clever way of defending his idea and found himself agreeing with the logic. Despite Seum's youth, he continued to be impressed. Suddenly, the girl entered the room, clearly anxious. She apologized for the interruption but insisted that there was an urgent call. Both men turned toward her. She announced that Man Records from Japan was on the line and wanted to speak directly. The news left both Nami and Seum stunned. Nami was confused. Man Records was supposed to be collaborating with Team 1, so this unexpected call raised questions. He picked up the phone and requested to be connected. On the other end, Sakamoto Teichi, director of Man Records, asked if the documents they had sent had been reviewed. He implied that the vague response they received seemed like a rejection. Surprised, Nami asked for clarification and requested honesty. Teichi, now resting his face in his hands, expressed his confusion. The document had clearly stated that they wanted to collaborate with HS, yet the songs they received were extremely disappointing. If Ellis Entertainment couldn't make it happen, he wanted a direct answer instead of evasion. Nami was left speechless. Seo-yeon observed the situation with a slight smile. In his thoughts, he recalled that director Nami had failed to notice a few important things. His memories drifted back to when his father had urgently asked him to stop his sister. At the time, he had coldly responded that he didn't know her. He remembered that he was fluent in Japanese and had understood the entire conversation back then. He thought back to Taechi running toward a man playing an instrument asking if he still needed help tuning it. Breathless, Taechi had admitted how amazing it sounded. Then he turned to Seo-yeon, wondering if he had done the tuning himself. Seo-yeon had simply rested his chin on his hand, turned slightly, and smiled. That moment was when he had first met the director of Man Records in Japan. Returning to the present, Seo-yeon remained focused. He didn't want to be bothered by anything other than his solo album for now. When asked about his stance, he responded with a triumphant smile. The implication was clear: trying to control the goose might just make it curious. At a cozy music cafe, the atmosphere shifted as the crowd settled. Taechi remarked on how the live performance had captivated everyone. His friend, beaming with joy, assumed it was due to the long break from performing, which made it feel fresh and exciting. Taechi gave a warm smile, his gaze fixed on his friend. In his thoughts, he identified the man before him as Sakamoto Taechi, representative of Man Records, one of Japan's top 3 record labels. Known for his low profile, Taechi rarely collaborated with other companies. With his hands casually tucked into his pockets, he approached his friend, still lost in thought. He acknowledged that even he, with a solid reputation, had never been an exception when it came to the influence of LS Entertainment. Suddenly, music began playing through the speakers, catching Taechi's attention. He immediately recognized the track, calling it the one he had been hooked on lately. The unique timbre and structure of the K-pop song had left a lasting impact on him. His friend, however, found it similar to most other K-pop songs. Taechi, slightly surprised, questioned that view. To him, the song felt like a perfect match for the artist's voice, something only a true singer-songwriter could craft. He expressed his admiration for the creator HS and shared his desire to meet him in person. Back in the present, Chai lounged on a sofa while Seo-yeon noted something urgent had come up. Chai encouraged him to continue working and offered to be left alone. Seo-yeon thanked him with a smile, masking his curiosity. As he stood up, he bowed and offered his help if needed, teasing that the car gifted to him was probably intended for that very purpose. Chai, feeling slightly exasperated, buried his face in his hands and clarified that it wasn't about help but rather about protecting his investment. She admitted he was trying to dissuade Seo-yeon from producing a solo album, not out of concern but to avoid risking the resources spent on him. Seo-yeon, meanwhile, thought about director Chien Nami, who seemed determined not to let subordinates become arrogant. Yet he suspected Nami might have known about this conversation beforehand based on his consistent attitude. Seo-yeon realized that if his request was denied, he would simply keep seeking opportunities elsewhere. He smirked as he faced Nami, who returned the look with a frown. Seo-yeon considered switching companies to release his solo album, deciding to play along for now. As he left Nami's office, a girl approached, informing him that someone was waiting to see him. Caught off guard, Seo-yeon turned to see Chai, who introduced himself as Moon Byum Chai. The moment felt heavy with meaning. The story then touched on the harsh realities of the music charts, a system both competitive and unforgiving. For a seasoned romantic singer like Chi, it had become exhausting. Over the years, he had begun to feel like the world was slowly leaving him behind. Later, Chai and Seo-yeon found themselves at a recording studio. Chai explained that manager Kim had delivered a message. He wished to be featured on Seo-yeon's solo album. This surprised Seo-yeon, especially since in his past life, Chai had rejected such a proposal outright. He questioned the reason behind the change. Shi, holding a cup of coffee, reflected on a visit to the Guggenheim Museum in Abu Dhabi. There he had seen a breathtaking glass sculpture illuminated by sunlight. That memory came flooding back the moment he heard Seo-yeon's song, even though it was only a demo. The emotions embedded in the music had spoken to him. Seo-yeon, curious, asked whether Chi only performed artistic pieces. Chai clarified that art holds many meanings and interpretations. He countered by asking if popular music couldn't be considered art as well. Though Seo-yeon noted that most people saw pop music as commercial, Chai held a different belief. To Chai, anything that could consume a person's time held artistic value. He recalled being so mesmerized by the sculpture that he stayed until the museum closed. Similarly, upon hearing Seo-yeon's song, he found himself replaying it, contemplating the emotion behind it. Chai explained that while many young people stream idol music merely for the artists, if they truly engaged with the songs, that too could be art. However, the kind of art Chai pursued was more defined. Songs that conveyed the songwriter's story even through melody alone. Seo-yeon sat there, stunned by Chi's perspective. He realized Chi's insight was incredibly sharp and far beyond what he had expected. Initially, he had assumed Chai was simply an eccentric artist chasing musical perfection. But in both his past and current life, Chi had remained true to himself. Sejong smiled inwardly, acknowledging that his admiration for Chai hadn't changed. Elsewhere, a young man wearing glasses stepped out of an elevator and heard voices talking about the intense heat of a nearby recording session. A blonde girl beside him peeked inside, remarking on how demanding it was to work with songwriter HS, especially this time around. The young man hesitated, clearly reluctant to enter. Inside, Sejong was in the middle of a rigorous recording session. He instructed Che to repeat parts of the song multiple times, citing small issues like breath control and tone. As the session continued, the man with glasses entered and informed Huyeon that they needed to discuss HS's album release schedule. Sejong, still busy with recording, asked if it was due to poor quarterly sales. The man awkwardly replied that wasn't the case. He brought up a rumor. Chaebo, a musical legend, was preparing to release a solo album at the end of the year. Because of this, many artists who planned releases in the second half of the year were delaying their albums until next year. Huyeon understood the concern. Chaebo, known as the musical genius of his generation and the king of royalties, had become a cultural icon. His consistent TV appearances and legacy in shaping solo album culture for songwriters made him a formidable presence in the industry. Huyeon acknowledged it was unfortunate. HS's album had a winter theme, which perfectly suited an end-of-year release, but now they had no choice but to speed things up. Huyeon suddenly sensed a cold chill behind him. As he turned around in fright, he was met with Sejong's intense glare. Sejong reminded him sharply that he hadn't even spoken yet, hinting that Huyeon's assumption was incorrect. Before finishing his sentence, Sejong froze and stared at him silently, then turned to the man with glasses and addressed him formally. Huyeon, clearly frustrated, responded with irritation, while Sejong lightened the mood, announcing cheerfully that he wanted to delay his album release until the end of the year. He chose to schedule it for the same day as Chaebo's album released during the 10th Korean Songwriters Association gathering. At the gathering, one of the guests mentioned hearing about Chaebo's upcoming solo album. Others chimed in, urging him to share some details so they could adjust their schedules accordingly. Chaebo laughed it off, claiming nothing had been finalized, although inwardly someone noted that the rumor of his December release had already spread widely and suspected the album was ready. The conversation shifted to HS, with one person asking Chaebo if he knew the new artist. Multiple people affirmed knowing HS, knowing his back-to-back hit debuts, and how he personally discovered Young Aaron. When someone proposed inducting HS into the association and asked for Chaebo's opinion, Chaebo sensed provocation from Ghost Sanction. Though HS was a hot topic in the music world, Chaebo felt no concern about his own fame being threatened. Yet, he acknowledged that Sanction was right. Chaebo agreed to the proposal, stating that if HS's music was indeed better, then he qualified. Sanction, inwardly annoyed, kept quiet. Chaebo then asked if anyone opposed HS joining the association. Everyone raised their glasses in agreement. Meanwhile, the streets outside were buzzing with Christmas cheer. Sejong sat at home, troubled about what to give someone to calm their anger. HS approached and asked what was bothering him, guessing it might be anxiety about the upcoming album release. Sejong denied it. His computer screen displayed a list titled Top 10 Gifts Loved by Teenage Girls, which HS noticed. Curious, he asked if Sejong was planning to give a gift to a girl. Sejong confirmed, explaining that he wanted to make it meaningful since it was the first peaceful Christmas after a long time. Ace hesitated, questioning if Sejong was dating a minor. Sejong froze in shock, taking a few seconds to process it before reacting in disbelief. Just then, the secretary called Manager Kim to a meeting in HS, remembering the schedule, warned Sejong not to proceed with the gift. He teased him again, implying concern that Sejong might be dating a minor, which left Sejong stunned and confused. During the meeting, rumors spread about Director Park intercepting a document from Man Records meant for Teen 2. People criticized his actions as childish and manipulative. Ha-Han found it absurd that Director Park would steal a project and then try to win favor with the higher-ups. Suddenly, Director Park walked in, and the room buzzed with gossip. Observers noted his scolded appearance and wondered why the large conference room had been used. When the board of directors entered, everyone realized something significant was happening. The director took his seat, organized his documents, and started the meeting. He announced the first agenda, setting the release date for HS's third album to coincide with Chaebo's. Director Choi silently blamed Sejong for the situation. The room reacted with surprise at the idea of releasing on the same day as Chaebo. Someone asked if this was HS's own proposal, and the secretary confirmed it. The room fell silent until Director Park stood and called the decision reckless. He pointed out that HS's album was a solo release and unlikely to generate large profits. He questioned the wisdom of going head-to-head with Chaebo, a music industry giant. Others agreed, doubting HS's understanding of the company's operations and criticizing manager Kim for failing to manage him. Song-han, head of the L's production planning team, countered the criticism. He viewed this as a valuable opportunity, suggesting that even a loss could be beneficial. He believed in HS's talent and felt that trust and support would ensure HS's loyalty to the company. Director Park was shocked that head manager Lee also agreed. Park argued that HS had caused enough trouble and needed to be reined in. Manager Lee snapped, defending HS and demanding respect for the musician. Park scoffed at the idea of HS being their musician. The debate escalated until the director intervened, demanding they listen to the album before deciding. He ordered manager Kim to contact the testing department and bring HS's CD. When the assistant returned with the CD, the director opted to use headphones. Ha-han was shocked to see the director personally listening to music during a meeting, something unprecedented in his time at the company. The director closed his eyes, tapping his fingers lightly to the rhythm as the room waited tensely for his verdict. Even director Choi appeared visibly nervous. After listening, the director removed his headphones and paused in thought. He started to speak, apologizing to Sejong and addressing manager Kim. But before he could finish, Director Park smirked smugly. Meanwhile, Sejong went Christmas shopping with his sister, Hyunhye. After selecting a gift and giving it to her, she smiled brightly. He looked at her with affection, thinking warmly. The upcoming competition between Sejong's and Chibo's albums was shaping up to be a clash worth watching. On December 24th, Christmas arrived. At that moment, the song Dear My Beethoven by Moonbeam, composed by HS, was released. On Christmas Day, both Chibo's and HS albums launched simultaneously. Headlines quickly emerged, announcing that hit producer HS had shaken up the music industry with the official midnight release of his solo album Atonement, reported by Kiki News Center. HS confidently described his album as a work of art, claiming he would conquer through music. Upon reading the news, Huyeon trembled. Sejong, unaffected, casually mentioned it felt like an earthquake. Huyeon shouted in frustration, unable to understand Sejong's indifference towards his own album launch. To Sejong, composing was just part of the job, while promotion, distribution, and sales were handled by others. Huyeon became angry, insisting such an attitude would offend the hardworking teams involved. Strategic planning, promotion, distribution, and A&R, he emphasized that everyone was united and driven, inspired by a rookie songwriter who reignited their passion. On TV, a report noted that despite the full support of Ella's Entertainment, HS's album wasn't performing well. Netizens mocked the comparison with Chibo, questioning his boldness. Huyeon, infuriated, questioned why such a comparison was wrong. Was Chibo royalty? Another article quoted a music critic Chansu, who claimed the era where marketing determined success was over. The public now had a more refined musical taste. Huyeon grew more irritated, labeling Chansu as annoying and ever-present during Ella's artist releases. He noted that all marketing efforts had been centered on him, and if he still failed, he would need to reassess objectively. He concluded that the song itself couldn't be bad, it must simply be ahead of its time. Just then, a woman entered with the album delivery. The next morning, outside Ella's Entertainment, NBS reporter Chinsun stood ready. He spotted a familiar face, manager Kim, and attempted to stop him. The man denied being Kim, but Chinsun coldly warned that exposing the truth would bring trouble. He referred to a recent scandal involving a Team 2 idol investigated for marijuana possession. Though not directly managed by Kim, the fallout had aged him, as handling the incident had been exhausting. Somehow, the annoying reporter had uncovered the information. Eventually, Huyeon confronted Chinsun on the rooftop. When asked how he knew, Chinsun boasted of his relentless digging, calling police, prosecutors, and chasing leads like mad. Annoyed by the rambling, Huyeon asked directly what he wanted. Chinsun requested a meeting and interview with HS. Shocked, Huyeon questioned the reason. Chinsun awkwardly admitted he was a fan. Huyeon scoffed internally and responded that HS disliked media appearances. Chinsun threatened exposure if denied. Huyeon stayed firm, saying he would only relay the message and the decision rested with HS. The reporter, clearly provoked, smirked arrogantly. Back inside the elevator, Huyeon vented his frustration, but Sejong interrupted and unexpectedly offered to help. Huyeon was stunned. The elevator opened to reveal someone waiting. An idea formed in Sejong's mind. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, Chinsun grew impatient. After an hour, he declared it a declaration of war and vowed to expose multiple incidents, including the drug case. Suddenly, someone addressed him. It was HS. The reporter introduced himself as from MBS and asked if HS had arrived by motorcycle. HS explained he came prepared despite only wearing a helmet. Chinsun found this odd, but accepted it. The interview began with standard questions about HS's debut and achievements. Chinsun noticed the songwriter's immense confidence. When asked about his debut with Shinai, HS referred to her as a good instrument. Confused, Chinsun listened as HS criticized producers and songwriters for not knowing how to use talent properly, contributing to Shinai's failure. Regarding Arin, HS called her another good instrument despite concerns over her being a dismissed trainee. He felt she had proven herself. The final question addressed the rumor that HS had postponed his solo album to compete directly with Chibo. HS admitted it was true. When asked if he believed he could catch up, given that his current performance lagged behind, he remained calm and confident. Soon after, HS's interview was published. In another setting, a female interviewer asked Chibo if he had seen it. She repeated HS's challenge to bet their careers. This rivalry intrigued both artists. In a flashback to the interview, HS confirmed the deliberate postponement of his album to compete. Though currently trailing, he asserted it wasn't really a competition. He was sure of victory. He believed the situation could be reversed and declared his confidence. If Chibo accepted, HS proposed a bold challenge. A music showdown with career-ending stakes. A bet to delete their careers. Back in the studio with Chibo, the female interviewer addressed the ongoing buzz surrounding the rookie songwriter HS, who had released his album on the same day. Chibo responded calmly, stating that she didn't consider it a competition. Although the timing was the same, she didn't believe their careers or abilities were on the same level. A month passed since the release of Chibo's and Sam's albums. After Chibo's interview, public interest in their rivalry increased. Sam's track Dear My Beethoven began climbing the music charts, a surprising turn many called miraculous. In the office, assistants expressed amazement, acknowledging the unexpected success. Still, they felt surpassing Chibo's popularity would be incredibly difficult. The loser of the bet would have to donate 500 million won. While Chibo was wealthy enough to handle that easily, it was a huge amount for a rising rookie like Sam. As the deadline neared, questions arose. Director Choi had been absent from the office often, claiming outside meetings. However, some suspected he was trying to distance himself from potential failure. Director Park, speaking cynically, predicted that Sam would end up donating all his earnings. He criticized the decision to release the album alongside Chibo's, calling the career bet and donation reckless. A loss, he said, would damage Ella's Entertainment's image as well. Director Choi snapped back, stating that being reckless was better than being a thief. He defended Sam's youth and boldness. Park grew furious, insisting he only wanted what was best for the company. Choi accused him of stealing opportunities under the pretense of company benefit and told him to speak professionally while in the office. As the elevator doors closed, the tension lingered. Meanwhile, a new visitor arrived. Sujin, the interpreter, introduced herself on behalf of Mr. Taichi, director of Man Records. Taichi apologized for the unannounced visit, but director Nami welcomed him. HS, the person he wanted to meet, was about to arrive. Inside the director's office, the board had gathered. Sakamoto Taichi had flown to Korea solely to meet HS. A woman hurried to call Siam to greet the visitors. Siam entered, apologized for the delay, and introduced himself as HS. Without wasting time, Sakamoto presented a collaboration proposal. It included a music copyright purchase agreement that met all of HS conditions. Siam carefully read through the contract, his expression unreadable. Director Park and Director Choi waited anxiously. After a long pause, Siam thanked Sakamoto and stated he would consider the offer carefully. This response shocked Sakamoto. He had expected an immediate acceptance, believing it to be a golden opportunity. Still, he acknowledged Siam's composure and maturity, considering a good sign. With an interview scheduled, Sakamoto excused himself and left. Once alone, Director Choi questioned why the offer wasn't accepted right away. HS appeared concerned. A collaboration with Man Records could tip the scales against Chibo instantly. However, Siam rejected the idea of using such tactics. He wanted to win without relying on shortcuts or external boosts. His confidence came across as arrogance to some. Despite his refusal to accept immediately, he clarified he wasn't rejecting the offer. He would reconsider it once the current hype settled. But for now, the chart rankings remained unmoved. Time continued to tick. The final day of the bet with Chibo arrived. In the office, a woman asked manager Kim if he was worried. He reassured her, noting that the charts would refresh 2 more times that day. HS stayed quiet, his mind distracted. Then something clicked. An idea sparked in his mind. Elsewhere, Sakamoto was attending an interview. As the director of Man Records, known for its distinctive musical style, he was asked about the criteria he used to select good songs. He expressed his dissatisfaction with the current music industry, criticizing the repetitive nature of today's songs. With so many tracks released daily, originality had taken a backseat. Songwriters were clinging to proven formulas for profit and resisting change. Sakamoto emphasized the need for innovation. He believed that rather than relying on machines to create catchy melodies, songwriters should challenge themselves by using live instruments. In his eyes, the industry needed a breakthrough. When asked if anyone could take on that role, he whispered one name, HS. The reason for his visit to Korea was to meet this very songwriter, who he believed would become a pioneer. Shortly after the interview, headlines broke out. Sakamoto Taichi, a major figure in the music industry, had labeled HS as a musical Midas. Media outlets like Ikiki News Center reported on his attention toward the rookie, highlighting Dear My Beethoven's rise to the top of the charts. An announcement from Nayat confirmed it. Songwriter HS had officially won. Chibo was now expected to donate the promised 500 million won. Reporters questioned her thoughts, asking if she had anticipated losing. She accepted the outcome, admitting she had listened to HS's music and found it genuinely impressive. If given another chance, she was even open to making a new bet against him. Some fans speculated that HS's victory was only due to Sakamoto Teichi's support, but regardless of opinions, a result stood. Interestingly, public interest leaned more toward the outcome than the bet itself. Since Shebo fulfilled her promise and donated the money cheerfully, she turned the situation into an opportunity. She reframed the donation as a branding investment. Though her revenue also grew with all the attention, she couldn't forget the loss. The frustration lingered and she silently resented the defeat. Meanwhile, Sejong reflected on the situation. Despite not intending to, he felt as if he had cheated. After some thought, he brushed it off, deciding to see it all as a fortunate turn of events. At that moment, Jae-yeon made an appearance. She teased Sejong, calling him out for not being a proper host. He brushed off the remark, calling her an uninvited guest. She accused him of never learning how to be charming and suddenly handed him something. Sejong, curious, asked about the item. Jae-yeon criticized his style, pointing out that he always wore hoodies like a kid. Sejong simply replied that he was, in fact, a kid. Huyeon then cut in, noting how the two were always bickering. He agreed with Jae-yeon and reminded Sejong that her YouTube cover video had sparked the viral high note challenge. Thanks to her, the song had trended again. Huyeon questioned why Sejong wasn't more appreciative. Sejong seemed doubtful that Jae-yeon deserved credit. He believed the song's popularity came naturally and pointed out a slight flaw in the video. A note off-key in the final bridge and a half-beat extension before the outro, overlapping with a variation. Jae-yeon, surprised he had watched the video, asked him about it. He casually said he watched it for fun. Still, he admitted that her high notes sounded more pleasant now as she had stopped tensing her chin. Sejong then suggested that manager Kim should be the one giving gifts to songwriters. Kim protested, saying he earned less than Sejong, who was now practically a walking corporation. That wasn't an exaggeration. A year had passed since Sejong joined the company, and within that time, he had achieved significant success. His impact was so great that some considered him a future leader. Huyeon, half-joking, asked him not to retire, saying he belonged to them forever. A new day began at Ellis Entertainment. Excitement broke out in the office. Someone held a CD in his hand, impressed by the lingering melody of Sejong's song. Despite the noisy world, he often lived in peace. Sometimes, he felt lucky for that. At home, Hain returned and asked about their father's whereabouts. On days when she wanted to cry, she buried her head and sobbed. Their father likely had no idea. Hain admitted that she once resented him, even though the blame lay with the world. She regretted never apologizing, even though she knew he wouldn't hear it. All she could do now was whisper her unspoken words, pleading for him to live on. While the rivalry between Chaebo and HS had ended, the buzz around them continued. Man Records and HS officially confirmed their collaboration. Questioned the reason behind Sakamoto's generous offer. He felt it wasn't purely about his music. Sakamoto responded with a story. One day, he had gone to repair a friend's contrabass and encountered a young man who tuned it perfectly. They exchanged business cards. That young man with an exceptional ear turned out to be HS, the very songwriter Sakamoto had long wanted to meet. The coincidence of meeting him in that moment moved Sakamoto deeply. He reflected on his own youth, which had been consumed by composing music. He often slept with a bow in hand, fingers dancing over piano keys, waking only to continue writing. Living like that gave him the ability to recognize those who shared the same passion. He saw that same spark in Sejong, asking if he hadn't also lived that way once. Sejong silently acknowledged that he had. Sakamoto offered a final piece of advice. He said the music business wasn't meant for people like Sejong. It was for people like him. If anyone in the industry ever offered a collaboration claiming it was for Sejong's benefit, he should remember these words. With a smile, Sakamoto suggested they continue working.